No, you don't have children. I say, no. I say, why don't you have children? Which is a really odd question to ask someone, why don't you have children? As opposed to asking people, why do you have children?
There's a strong antenatal movement in Western society. Well, in fact, it's across most of the world. Now, antenatal, that's not antenatal as opposed to prenatal. This is antenatal, A-N-T-I, in other words, against the idea of having children. Now, what I've done in this video is I am compiling lots of clips and memes from people who are basically promoting childlessness as a choice and attacking the idea that there's some sort of responsibility or expectation on couples to have children. And I'm going to respond to those. Now, there are lots of reasons why couples don't have children. But what this video is addressing is couples, male-female couples, long-term relationships, who deliberately decide that they're not going to have children. I'll be exploring the reasons for that. I'll point out a lot of them are actually very selfish reasons. I mean, this little meme sums it up a little bit. So this is someone saying, I know how babies are made. What I don't know is why. So they're saying, why on earth would anyone want to have a baby? Now, the things I'm going to look at here, I know they're funny. I know it's comedy, but what is the comedy? The reason it's funny is that people making it, they think it's funny because it's someone daring to say the truth, despite it being a bit socially unacceptable. So it's daring to tell the truth and mocking what they see as the stupid social convention that they're transgressing against. So I hope you find this entertaining and interesting. But let's go back to Ricky Gervais.
Right? People say, oh, it's selfish to not have children. How can it be selfish to not bring a life into the world that doesn't exist on any level? It's a long sort of cabinet full of potential ghost fetuses going, we want to be born, right?
So see that, his view is completely individualistic. Nothing about the collective well-being of society, maintaining a culture, humanity. It's just all about him.
Okay, 3 main reasons I don't have children, and I'll share them with you. Okay, here they go. 3 reasons, right? 1, there's millions. The world's overpopulated. No one's sitting around going, oh, Rick's not having kids, we're going to run out.
Who says the world's overpopulated? Catastrophic population decline is a real threat to humanity, and it's going to cause untold problems if projections are correct. So the idea that the Earth's overpopulated, absolutely wrong.
2, kids are scroungers, aren't they? I mean, from day one, it's all me, isn't it? Feed me, clothe me, pay for my chemotherapy. No, not my problem, son. Luck of the draw, boy, luck of the draw.
Would you really resent spending money on his own child, the most vulnerable, most loved? Would you really resent sharing his huge wealth with a child? Now, don't forget, he said a little while ago that he's not selfish. Of course, we'll come on to more about that later. Now, Ricky Gervais, I understand, has a pet cat. Does that cat pay its own way?
Yeah, it's like totally worth it. What does that mean? I don't know. It's just like worth it. Like worth it how? Like worth it. Like an investment strategy? No. Are you talking about a short-term, long-term hold? It's like worth it. What does that even mean? It's just worth it. So you're saying even though your life is never going to be the same again, you're saying it's worth it? Worth it. Even though the cost of daycare is just another mortgage payment, it's still worth it? Totally worth it. Even though you're losing track of the days and your sleep schedule is broken beyond repair to a point where you can't decipher between dreams and reality, you still think it's worth it? Even though you're gambling on a spectrum between raising the next president of the United States or another Menendez brothers, you still think it's worth it? Even though you brought life to an already overcrowded world where the cost of living is never slowing down and the gap between the rich and the poor spreads wider after every generation, you still think it's worth it? Even though your child is an existential reminder that life is short and as you watch them quickly grow, they watch you slowly die, you still think it's worth it?
We get the idea here. I mean, the disruption and the financial cost of bringing up a child, how could it possibly be worth it? Surely it's risky. You don't know how they're going to turn out. Isn't that human relationships in general? Isn't that the risk you take by entering into a genuine, loving relationship? So the message of this is play safe, avoid this intense relationship and responsibility, and then you'll be fine. So here we've got the only thing I love more than kids is doing anything I want at all times. Again, totally selfish, and treating the world as a playground, that the highest ideal, the highest goal for life is just to be able to do as you please. Not much meaning and purpose expressed in that. So look at this next one. So dad saying to unborn child, you'll grow up to work, pay bills, and then die. Implication, why bother even having children? Because they'll just have this empty, meaningless life. You'd assume the same as I think my life is. That's the idea behind that meme. Life is futile and meaningless, so why bother bringing more babies into the world, creating more similar meaningless lives. Now, you can see the obvious implication there, that the more futile and meaningless people think their lives are, then the less offspring they will produce. And I think that's a significant factor in the demographic decline that we are entering into. Right, the next one, congratulations on producing another consumer. Now, this is a bit connected with the green agenda, you know, the patch of tiny carbon footprints. Karl Marx said he thought that marriage was a scheme to induce people to produce new workers for capitalists to exploit. I think that sort of thinking is still there on the sort of more extreme left of politics, but yeah, totally wrong. Just seeing it through political lens, as though the idea of someone coming into the world, eating, drinking, buying things, making things, enjoying their life, somehow that's damaging and something counterproductive.
When do you make a conscious decision to have a child? When do you look at each other? Honey, we've been married a while. We're happy, we have money, we have friends. Let's put an end to it. Why have fun when we could worry until we're dead?
More of the same there, isn't it? The idea that the purpose of life is to order your own life for your own entertainment, not even thinking about higher values, fulfillment, meaning, etc. The assumption is that the rewards of nurturing and loving a child, seeing them developing into adulthood, those rewards are negligible compared to these other practical considerations. Now, the next video clip starts off with J.D. Vance and his unfortunate comment about cat ladies, which I think was really, it was a silly thing to say, totally the wrong language, really clumsy. But my point is not to reproduce what J.D. Vance was saying. My point is to look at the reaction in this video.
A bunch of childless cat ladies who are miserable at their own lives and the choices that they've made.
Oh no!
So these will become common themes as well. Do young women who prioritise career and making money often regret not having children? Well, yes, they often do. They might hit, say, 40 years old, then think, hang on a minute, there's something missing from my life. I actually want to have children. Then maybe it doesn't quite work out then. It's a bit too late for various reasons. But you can see here, money and travel. They're like two false gods that are presented constantly in this so-called humour. Now, money, that's pretty self-explanatory, but travel is quite amazing, the value that some people seem to put on travel. Look at this image here. So you've got a couple, a man and a woman, and a pram, but instead of having a baby in it, it's full of airline tickets. In other words, who'd want a baby when you can go on holiday lots? Go trekking in outer Mongolia or something. Right, this next one. I chase dreams, not toddlers. And what are those dreams? Well, by the fact that the woman's got a rucksack on her back, the dream seems to be to go to different places. So travel really does seem to be an idol here. You know, that your dream in life, your purpose in life, your destiny is to go to other places and see them. And I think for some people, they seem to believe that going to other countries or traveling the world makes them interesting. Or if they've been to see different parts of the world, they've really done something worthwhile with that section of their lives. I just don't get that. But I like travelling abroad. It's very interesting. I really do enjoy it. Might do it next summer, go to a different country. I don't know, so I enjoy it. But it's not like the core meaning and purpose of life. It's just holiday. But this approach, the idolising travel, is really self-indulgent, it seems to me. Right, the next meme. I have puppies instead of children. I'd rather ruin my carpet than my life. Well, you get the message. But the thing I'd like to point out with this is not... Okay, someone talking about themselves, but the implication is felt by other people. So anyone who has children, well, this person is communicating to them, you're ruining your life. You're ruining your life by having children. Now, what effect will that have? The stronger that is in society, the more people will be disinclined, deterred from actually having children, because they'll think everyone thinks this is a crazy thing to do, so why should we do it? Right, next one. Condom commercials should just be a live feed of couples trying to enjoy a decent meal at a restaurant with their kids. Well, I would say about this, as you probably heard me say before, I think there is a bit of an epidemic of weak parenting in Britain, in the Western world in general. So a lot of kids are badly behaved. And so you see children with their kids and it looks really stressful and unpleasant and a lot of conflict. And I can imagine people looking on thinking, whoa, I really don't fancy doing that. But talking about this couple trying to enjoy a meal, but to be honest, having meals with kids, doing anything with kids, it's so much fun. Laugh a minute. And quite often you might do something, be used to doing something with kids, and it's just hilarious, it's great fun, really entertaining. So yeah, laugh a minute. Then you do the same thing without kids. You sort of think, oh, this is a bit boring actually. Where are they? Can we not get one or two of them back to liven this up a little bit? Right, next picture here. Parenting isn't stressful at all, and the idea is that woman's aged 27. Again, priorities, it's that the perpetual adolescence type thing, that preserving your youthful good looks, that's what really counts. That's much more important than bringing a new life into the world and nurturing it and loving it into adulthood. The next one, so we've got the baby there, someone saying, my blessing, what would I do without you? So what would she do without the baby? Study, advance her career, have time to do what you want, have money, sleep, spend time with your partner, etc. It's again the idea that the life is wrecked by the child. Whereas the evidence is completely the opposite. The people who have children, parents are often the most happy and satisfied and fulfilled people in society. So getting married, having kids is a pretty good route to happiness, the evidence suggests. But the attitude of our cultural political elites is rather different. They communicate to people the assumption that if you've got children, well, they're a problem to you, and the problem is that you have to spend a lot of time with them. So the mission of the government is to relieve you of this problem and to look after your kids so you can go away and do these more important things like studying and advancing your career or whatever else, anything apart from being with your own kids. So the government communicates this message. The kids are a barrier to you doing the really important things in life that you would really like to do. So if you create that impression, then surely the logical next step that people are going to think is, well, why bother inflicting this problem on yourself in the first place? Surely better off just not to have children, which is the message of that little meme. Right, the next one here. So this is condoms in a supermarket under the banner Pest control. Very offensive, I would say, to the new life, precious, wonderful new life that should be greeted with profound joy and gratitude. That's the right attitude. But this, like, children are a pest. New lives, babies, they're a pest. And I guess that's just a follow through of the abortion attitude being expressed in a different context.
I finally realized why I didn't have a desire for kids, because I always pictured myself being a mom. I talked to Tony Robbins, and it was in this private little event that he had, and he brought up women that don't want to have kids. And he's like, the reason a lot of women have kids is there's a lack of something. They're at a certain age, they don't have a purpose. They haven't figured out something that's fulfilling them. And so they have this lack that they want to fill. And so a lot of women fill it with kids. A lot of women now have filled that lack with a purpose, with a career, with a mission they're on.
Now that's an interesting one, isn't it? There's the idea there. She's not far off saying kids are just for inadequate women who can't manage to find themselves a fulfilling career. So they might need to have kids to make up for their lack in other areas. Career replaces kids. Again, will she regret that in later life? Very, very probably. What I'd say here, though, is regardless of any value judgments, no matter what you think about what she said, the absolute fact that's clear is that there is a dynamic of like feminism versus fertility. That the more women are encouraged to find fulfillment and meaning in their careers, then the fewer children will be born. So that's not a value judgment, that is just a fact. And I think that's a very significant fact in the demographic decline or collapse that countries like Britain and especially Scotland are facing in decades to come. Right, this person goes one step further. Unpopular opinion, I don't think your life has to have a purpose or a grand ambition. I think it's okay to just wander through life finding interesting things until you die. So the previous lady said she'd found purpose in her career, so she didn't need to have kids. And this lady is saying we don't need any purpose. Whoever said you need a purpose? So I'm just going to entertain myself, distract myself, and that will do instead.
When you hit 40 and you're single, people freak out. You know, they're like, "Oh, you got to have a kid. You don't want to die alone." That's what everybody says. You don't want to die alone. And I have to tell you, you're only dying for a very short period of time. It's not a good motivation for having a kid, because it's a fucking huge investment of time for like 6 weeks of conversation, max. And you're off your fucking face on morphine for most of it. You're on like a fentanyl patch. been there twice with my parents. It is just not a good idea. Because first of all, right, this economy, 30 years minimum. Kids, you can't get rid of them, super expensive, and no guarantee they're going to be good. There's no guarantee they're ever going to be there at the end. No kids, no need, save the money, save the stress, and I'll talk to a Jamaican or a Filipino for the last 6 weeks. I'll be fine. I'll be absolutely fine. No problem. Do karaoke with a Filipino nurse. She'll be happy. I'll be happy. I'll tell you that.
Now, that's quite sad, this one, isn't it? So this man's saying he really doesn't care about having strong family relationships throughout his life, because he's just looking at the last portion of his life, which obviously is very inadequate for you to take, but it's quite sad. But he wants someone to look after him in his declining years, doesn't he? He wants someone, but who's it going to be? Well, it's not his kids, not even kids born of Americans, so immigrants. He wants some children of immigrants to come and look after him. But let's just think this through. Let's just think this through. If there are not enough people to look after the elderly, then you're going to pay other people's children to do it. But you can't create these workers out of thin air. So he's saying he'll have no kids, but he's saying he's going to rely on someone else to have had children, and someone else's children will then come and look after him. Who's going to look after the parents of the people who are looking after him, etc. So extremely selfish view. But the way things are set up in Britain and Scotland in particular is we need ongoing taxpayers in order to pay for the NHS, for social care, etc. of older people. So people rely on other people to have children, even if they don't have children themselves, and you could say that that is unfair. Right, this one gets a bit more extreme. You're not planning to have children, but who's going to take care of you when you're old? I paid $20,000 for a hitman to shoot me in the head when I turn 80. Whoa, how do you afford that? The other person smiling, implication obviously, well, I didn't have any children, so I can afford it. In other words, you don't need to have children and just kill yourself when you're getting old. Well, at least you can say about the progressive mentality. At least it's consistent. It makes sense. Joined up thinking, you might say. But wow, what a vision. Don't have kids because you can commit suicide. You have euthanasia before you need any sort of intense care in older life. That really is a glimpse into the new morality, isn't it? It all fits together. Right, now let's move to the most obnoxious contributor yet.
My greatest accomplishment in life is my children. Really? That's your greatest accomplishment in life is your children. Let me ask you this. What will your children's greatest accomplishment in life be? Having children? Because guess what? This is the ideology of a cancer cell. Growth for the sake of growth, for the sake of growth, for the sake of growth. Reproduction for the sake of reproduction. I don't think that's the highest, noblest goal. I think there should be something in there about quality of life, about making the world or the experience of others better.
Right, there's an analogy there between having children, building up a family, and cancer is utterly, utterly appalling. I mean, growth for growth's sake, bringing into the world precious new lives, giving the opportunity of other people to enjoy all that life has offered to us, lavishing love on them, giving them a great start in life. He says that's all rubbish. That's all just like cancer. I'd love to speak to this gentleman and say to him, well, what's your greatest accomplishment then? Yeah, making a lot of money, successful business, persuading a lot of people to watch your terrible videos? I'm not sure. I'd be interested to ask him, wouldn't it? But he thinks you should focus on something that makes the experience of others better. Well, what about if there are no others to have any experiences? What have you achieved then? Because if people put into practice what he was saying, that's what the result would be. So here we've got getting pregnant classed as a disease. Now that's presented as a joke, but that is basically the attitude of the NHS. In Scotland, pregnancy is viewed as a disease and abortion is viewed as the cure, a form of healthcare, as it's known. So the next one, we've got a picture of the cat there. It says, my great-grandmother had 10 kids, my grandmother had 4 kids, my mother had 2 kids, I've got a cat, and my cat's been neutered. So that's like taking pride almost in the fact that our society is going to fade away. And that sort of thinking, I say, is quite widespread.
Listen, I get why you have kids. I'm not so naive. Like, it's because you love them. It's because that's a great feeling to feel the love that you have for your child. It's a feeling I've heard of, and it sounds so good. And I might not get to feel it. And sometimes I get bummed out by that. I'm like, is this a human life worth living to not feel that great love? And then I think about, you don't get to feel every feeling in life that's good, Like, I also have no plans on doing heroin. Like, I hear that feeling's pretty great. I hear it might be better than the kid feeling, to be honest with you. Because I know know people who have kids who do heroin, and they're like, kid Schmids, like, leave them in the car. Let's go get more heroin. Crack a window. Actually, bring the kid. Let's sell it for heroin. Like, I don't care about this kid because I love heroin.
So notice here, her only consideration is how something makes her feel. It's her feelings, her experiences that count. Again, totally selfish, but she seems to be assuming that the audience share this mindset, share this outlook as well. So when she talks about heroin, she's taking it that the experience it gives you is the only consideration. So the experience of taking heroin is better than the experience of having a child and loving it and experiencing an ongoing relationship with that child. Now again, yeah, totally selfish, really restricted, limited, one-dimensional view. But so why do people want to have children? Well, I believe it's inbuilt. It's an intuition. It's a built-in desire. I've given some reasons for having children in terms of like continuing the nation, the culture, for the well-being of society, maintain the economy, etc., etc. But at the center of it, I believe that the intuition to have children is, it's a bit like our conscience. It's something just built into us. So I think if you look at animals, you know, they eat, they work in some ways, they relax in some ways, they have relationships, they care for each other, they experience sexual attraction, they enter into bonding in some sort of ways, and they have children, they reproduce. So I think those things are in the animal nature to some degree, and I believe to a large degree they're built into us as well. And that's part of, in my view as a Christian, like God's intention. So if we look at our people's, if you like, appetite to have children, desire to have children, where does it come from? And a large part, I think, is just built in to our human nature. Now someone might say, oh, that's really irrational, you need to be able to explain this. Well, think about sexual attraction. Can you explain that rationally? Well, no, not remotely. It doesn't make any sense at all. But these things are deep in human nature. They're part of who we are, and they express themselves. And as a result of that, societies can flourish on an ongoing basis. I think a lot that goes under the banner of progressivism is actually a declaration of war on human nature, because it regards whatever is natural and normal as part of patriarchal capitalist oppression, and we need to break free from it. Now, obviously, if you declare war on human nature, you're going to lose. And that's what I believe is happening in our society with regard to this issue. Now, how about this one? What if babies are nature's punishment for having sex? Complete reversal of the truth. The joy of parenthood should be the wonderful culmination of the process of attraction, love, commitment, sex. But nature's punishment, again, totally abandoning the core principles and intuitions of family life. Now, one last one. There was one on this social media page I was looking at these on. I thought it was actually quite funny. Now, you know the signs you see on cars when it says, you know, be careful, baby on board. I've always thought those signs were a little bit odd. I don't think I'd sort of drive a bit more carefully because I see that sign. So anyway, someone's mimicked that sign with this. It says, adults on board, we're not keen on being crashed into either. So I thought that was quite amusing. So anyway, I hope you found that interesting. I say that the idea is that would be an insight into quite a powerful social movement, ideology that I would say that's gaining strength in Western culture, and you can see it laid bare in there through humour. So yeah, hope that was interesting. Do join the Scottish Family Party. There's a link below. We'd love to meet you, and thanks for watching.